In problem number 7, this is a three-step problem, kind of like we did in the notes. We're given a function f of x on an interval. We want to find the average value of f. We want to find c such that f average is equal to f of c, and then we want to sketch the graph of f in the rectangle whose area is the same as the area under the graph of f. So let's start with part A. We want to find the average value of f on the given interval, so we are just using our f average equation, which I have written there. So my f average is going to be equal to 1 over b minus a. And here's our interval from a to b, so 3 minus 0 times the integral from 0 to 3 of my f of x, which is 4x minus x squared dx. So now I just have to do the math. So this is going to be equal to 1/3 times the integral from 0 to 3 of 4x minus x squared dx. So let's anti-differentiate this. So this is going to be equal to 1/3 times. The antiderivative of 4x is going to be 2x squared. And then the antiderivative of negative x squared is going to be negative 1/3 x cubed. Oops. And we are evaluating this on the interval from 0 to 3. So then I'm going to go ahead and do my evaluation theorem. So 1/3 times 2 times 3 squared minus 1/3 times 3 cubed minus, and then 1/3 times, well, when I plug 0 in for both of those, I'm going to get 0. So simplifying this, 1/3 times 3 cubed is 9 times 2 is 18. 3 cubed is 27 times negative 1/3 is negative 9. So I get 18 minus 9. So I have 1/3 times 9, which is 3. Okay, now I want to point something out here. The value of the integral is 9. Okay, because that's what we got when we did the integral part of this equation. The 1/3 comes from the 1 over b minus a, right? So, just for noting this for later, this 9 right here is the value of the integral. So this is the area under the curve. Right, from 0 to 3. But the average value of my function is 3. This is my f average right here. All right, so then part B, they want us to find C such that f average is equal to f of C. So again, f average is 3, and f of C means plug C in for x in f of x. So that will be 4c minus c squared. Looks like a quadratic function that we have to set equal to 0 and factor. I like to factor when a is 1, so I'm going to move everything to the left side. So this is going to make c squared minus 4c plus 3 equals 0. When I factor this, I end up with c minus 3, c minus 1. So that tells me that I have two values, c equals 3 and c equals 1, where f of c is equal to f average. All right, so now the last part here is to make my graph. So for part C, I'm going to graph my function. And you can certainly use a graphing calculator to assist you with this part of the process. All right, so when I graph the 4x minus x squared, again, this is going to be a parabola that opens down. It's got some transformations. All right, so my interval here is from x equals 0 to x equals 3. Just going to kind of mark that off. And then my function, f of x, let's see here, at x equals 1, the value is equal to the average value, which is 3 right here. And at x equals 3. The average value of the function is equal to f average. And then the vertex of the parabola is at 1, 4. Or sorry, excuse me, 2, 4. Right here. So it looks something like this. Okay, so this idea that the area under my curve from x equals 0 to x equals 3, we can shade that in with a light green here. That this area right here, which we know is 9 because we already calculated that has to be the same as the rectangle that is created by a height of f average, which is right here at 3, and a base along the x-axis from 0 to 3. That this rectangle has an area of 9, and the area under the curve has an area of 9, and that those two areas are equivalent to each other. So if we want to just kind of draw that out on the bottom here, we're saying that area is 9, and that this is equivalent to what looks kind of like most of a parabola here, that this has an area of 9 as well. All right, last problem on the review, number 8. Find the numbers b such that the average value of f of x on the interval from 0 to b is equal to 3. Okay, so my bad. I did not give you the f of x that you need for this one. My apologies. Okay, so the f of x that we are referring to is going to be f of x equals 2 plus 6x minus 3x squared. All right, so we're going to begin with our f average equation, right, which we know is f average is equal to 1 over b minus a times the integral from a to b of f of x dx. And so we want to find the numbers b such that the average value of this function on the interval from 0 to b is equal to 3. So that means f average is equal to 3. And the integral is from 0 to b, so it's going to be 1 over b minus 0 times the integral from 0 to b of 2 plus 6x minus 3x squared dx. All right, so now I can do a little bit of simplifying. The 1 over b minus 0, well, first of all, that's just b, right? And so if I want to move that to the other side of the equal sign, since it's 1 over b, I would just multiply both sides by b, right? So essentially what I'm doing here, maybe I should show this in 2 steps. So I've got 3 equals 1 over b times the integral from 0 to b of 2 plus 6x minus 3x squared dx. So I am going to multiply both sides by b. So multiply by b, multiply by b. So now I have 3b is equal to, and then I'm going to do my antiderivative now on the other side. So antiderivative of 2 is going to be 2x. Antiderivative of 6x is going to become 3x squared. And antiderivative of negative 3x squared is just going to be negative x cubed. And we have to evaluate this from 0 to b. So evaluation theorem time. When we plug in b, we get 2b plus 3b squared minus b cubed minus, and then all of those terms become 0 when we plug in 0. So it looks to me like we're going to need to set it equal to 0 and then perhaps do some factoring. And so if I set this equal to 0, I'm going to end up with b cubed minus 3b squared plus b equals 0. So that's combining like terms and setting it equal to 0. So there's a GCF of b here that I can take out, and then I will have b squared minus 3b plus 1 equals 0. And so obviously right here, this b gives us b equals 0. But this answer doesn't make any sense because if we're looking at we're trying to find b, but b is the interval from 0 to b, right? So this b equals 0 doesn't really make sense because then this would just be an interval from 0 to 0. So let's write that down. This doesn't make sense because the interval would be 0 to 0. Now, the other answers we're going to get from that b squared minus 3b plus 1, which is not factorable. So here we will have to solve by the quadratic formula. All right, so if we do that, then our b values are going to be equal to the opposite of negative 3, which is going to be 3, plus or minus the square root of negative 3 squared plus negative 4 times 1 times 1 all over 2 times 1. And then we're going to simplify. Negative 3 squared is 9, plus negative 4 is the square root of 5 over 2. Okay, so 3 plus the square root of 5 over 2 and 3 minus the square root of 5 over 2. Now, if you type those in your calculator, what you find out is that both of those actually come out to be positive values because the square root of 5 is a number less than 3. So both of these are good values. Both are positive. Okay. And so those are the answers for number 8. We found the numbers b such that the average value of f of x on the interval from 0 to b is equal to 3.